a man, who they say he murdered 3. Strange things have happened there. No stranger would it be if we met at midnight in the hanging tree.
Welcome to the show. I'm your host, Chris James. If I had 8 arms, I'd try drinking 8 cups of coffee at the same time. I'd wind up spilling 8 cups of coffee down the front of my shirt. Octopi are smart. They have 9 brains, so they'd be able to handle 8 cups of coffee at one time. Too bad the salt water would ruin the taste. If you hate ruined coffee, you need to go to Organic Man Coffee Trike to get the coffee that is always right. Julio buys only organic coffee beans, which aren't really beans, and he roasts them in the back room that isn't in the back. 4501 McPherson is home to the best coffee in the universe. Walk right in. It's around the back, just a half a mile from the railroad track. Yes, that is from Alice's Restaurant by Arlo Guthrie. I don't think the railroad tracks are a mile from Organic Man. Half a mile, I'm sorry. Some of y'all should recognize that song. It's not that far. Swing by and get the nectar of the gods. If you don't drive or you don't live in Laredo, go to organicmancoffeetrike.shop. There's no excuse for drinking bad coffee that is loaded with chemicals. Organic Man is all natural, and it's fruit juice because, well, coffee grows on a tree. I have a vast, eclectic group of listeners. Some are in the military, and others are retired like me. There are folks in many countries, which makes me hope I'm not the the example that they're using for what life is like here in the United States. Uh, I'm not trying to be the ambassador here. I'm just trying to do my show. But I have listeners all over the world, which is kind of weird the way I see it. China, Russia. I don't have any listeners in Japan or Greenland. I wonder why. What's up there? Anyway, all over Africa. Uh, when I retired, I considered continuing as a paramedic, getting into EMS, but instead I wound up doing this show. I do some writing, but the podcast seems to take more time than anything else I do, except maybe sleeping. One of my listeners, Philip Barnes, used to be a sheriff's deputy. Now he does security work, and he just performed in his first movie. Philip plays the Pigman in a movie called Ducky. It's based on a true story. The narrative follows Oscar, a 16-year-old from Oak Cliff, which is in Dallas, who faces some unique challenges. After a botched car theft, Oscar must rescue his friend Ducky from the bloodthirsty gangs that roam the streets. He needs to get home before nightfall to protect his family. Oscar is not your typical teenager. He was born with a curse that allows him to see, talk to, and touch the dead. As he navigates the gang infested streets, he must confront both the living threats and the demon that lurks in the darkness. Compounding his trouble, there's a serial killer on the loose in Oak Cliff. Can Oscar save his friend and stop the killer before it's too late? Philip is an evil spirit, the pig man, who's trying to possess the hero. Who knows where this may lead? Gunnar Monson was a college kid when he got recruited to play Leatherface in the Texas Chainsaw Massacre. Perhaps someday Philip might be seen in another movie, maybe as the hero. Ducky was written and directed by Oscar Mendoza. It's based on a real event, something that did happen in Dallas. I imagine most of the story is made up, but there are lots of serial killers out there and lots of evil spirits. If you get a chance, check it out. Give the movie a thumbs up. You'll be helping out one of our listeners. Not recommended for kids. An octopus is a soft bodied, 8 limbed mollusk of the order Octopoda. The order consists of about 300 species and is grouped within the class Cephalopodia, with squids, cuttlefish, and nautiloids. Like other cephalopods, an octopus is bilaterally symmetric, with 2 eyes and a beak mouth at the center point of the 8 limbs. An octopus can radically deform its shape, enabling it to squeeze through tiny little openings. They trail their appendages behind them as they swim backwards. The siphon is used for both respiration and locomotion, kind of using jet propulsion using water, like a jet ski with arms. Octopi have a complex nervous system, excellent sight, and they are among the most intelligent and behavioral diverse invertebrates. Octopi inhabit various ocean habitats, including coral reefs, pelagic water, that's open sea away from the coast, and the seabed. Some live in an intertidal zone, and others at the abysmal depths. Abyssal, not abysmal. Two completely different words. Abyssal depths. Most species grow quickly, mature early, and they are short lived. In most species, the male uses a specially adopted arm to deliver sperm directly into the female's mantle cavity, after which he becomes sentient. That would be kind of like me, old and screwed up. Then the octopus dies. The female octopus deposits fertilized eggs in a den, and then she cares for them until they hatch, after which she also dies. I know a few parents out there who seem to die right after their kids are born. Dead eyes, a zombie like gait, no hope for a future. Well, then Junior grows up and leaves home, and suddenly there is life after death. Octopi are predators and hunt crustaceans, bivalves, gastropods, and fish, and sometimes humans. As strategies to defend themselves against their own predators include expelling a large mass of ink, camouflaging themselves, and putting on a threat display, making themselves look a lot more vicious than they are. The ability to jet quickly through the water, hide, and deceit. All octopi are venomous, but only the blue-ringed octopi are known to be deadly to humans. The three plurals for octopus come from different ways the English language adopt plurals. Octopi is the oldest plural for octopus, coming from the belief that words of Latin origin should have Latin endings. Octopuses was the next plural given to words an English ending to match an adoption as an English word. Lastly, octopotus stems from the belief that because octopus is originally Greek, it should have a Greek ending. I grew up saying octopi, so that's what I'll be saying. It's not that I don't like change, it's because saying octopuses sounds like I fell off a truck on my head, which I actually did a long time ago when I worked in the oil field, but that's another story. How about octopotamus? That's an eight-legged hippo. Octopi appear in mythology as sea monsters, sometimes mistaken for being the kraken from the Norwegian stories and the Akorakamui of Anui. Somehow, somebody decided that the Gorgon of ancient Greece was an octopus. How they got that one? Well, somebody might have been drinking while doing the research. That's what happens when the boys in the white lab coats need to come up with something new without actually leaving the library. A battle with an octopus appears in Victor Hugo's book, Toilers of the Sea. Octopi appear in Japanese shunga art, which depicts humans doing adult things, as well as some weird things with animals. They're considered a delicacy by humans in many parts of the world, especially the Mediterranean and Asia. If octopi are from some distant star and their fellow space travelers show up here one day, I will be so glad that I have never consumed one of their relatives. The giant Pacific octopus is often cited as the largest octopi species. Adults can weigh up to 150 pounds. This is only the biggest recognized by those people. We don't know what might lurk under the sea. There could be an octopus far larger, but until the white coat crowd sees them, they don't exist. The giant Pacific octopus has a 16-foot arm span. There are stories of octopi weighing up to 600 pounds with a 60-foot span. Now, that's almost as big as my house. At one time, there were 7 armed creatures known as Halophron atlanticus. They had been seen in the fossil record. Why they didn't just call them sextopus? Well, that name doesn't really roll off the tongue so well. The octopus has an elongated body that is bilaterally symmetrical. That means it's the same on one side as the other, but opposite. The eyes are in the same location, unlike, say, a flounder. Uh, the head and foot are on the ventral side, which would be the belly, but is acting as the foot for an octopus. The front, not a foot. The head contains both the mouth and parts of the brain. Parts. The mouth has a sharp chitinous beak and is surrounded by and underneath what is known as the foot, which evolved into flexible, prehensile limbs known as arms. These are attached to each other near their base by a webbed structure. The arms are arranged in pairs. The front six are used for hunting and food, or messing about with things. The back two arms are actually their legs. They use them to actually walk along the bottom of the ocean. Octopi are known to rearrange their surroundings to suit their needs. The bulbous hollow mantle is fused to the back of the head and contains most of the vital organs. The mantle has a cavity with muscular walls and a pair of gills. It is connected to the exterior by a funnel or a siphon. The octopi can suck in a huge amount of water and then blast it out through the funnel. While doing this, the octopus has to hold its breath because it's breathing through the same organ that it's jetting along with. Can't do both at once. The skin consists of thin epidermis with mucus cells, sensory cells, and a fibrous dermis made of collagen and containing various cells that allow color change. Most of the body is made of soft tissue, allowing it to squeeze through tiny gaps. Even the larger species can pass through something about an inch in diameter. As long as they can get their beak through the opening, the rest of the octopus can follow. Lacking skeletal support, the arms work as muscular hydrostats and feature longitudinal, transverse, and circular muscles around a central axis nerve. That means lengthwise, around the perimeter, and across the arm. They can squash and stretch, coil at any place in any direction, and even stiffen, kind of like our arms do, but without the bones. The interior surface of the arms are covered with circular adhesive suckers. The suckers allow the octopus to secure itself in place or to pick up objects and move them around. Each sucker is typically circular and bowl-like and has two distinct parts, an outer disc-shaped infundibulum and an inner cup-like acetabulum. Boy, these scientific words, acetabulum, both of which are thick, muscular, covered in connective tissue. A chitinous cuticle lines the outer surface. When a sucker attaches to the surface, the orifice between the two structures is sealed and the infundibulum flattens out. Muscle contractions allow for attachment and detachment. Each of the 8 arms senses and responds to light. Even if the octopus can't see what it's doing, the arms can tell if there's light or not. I was going to chop out a lot of this scientific mumbo jumbo, but then I realized that later on in the show, I was referencing these same things and I needed the clarity. And then I wound up cutting out some of the later shows. So if it sounds like I'm throwing out a whole lot of scientific talk, just bear with it. It used to matter to the show. The cranium has two cartilaginous capsules which contain their eyeballs. They look kind of like a fish's eyes. The cornea is formed from a translucent epidermal layer. The slit-shaped pupil, which is sideways instead of up and down, forms a hole in the iris just behind the cornea. They have goat eyes. The lens hangs behind the pupil. Photoreceptive retinal cells line the back. The pupil can expand and contract, and the retinal pigment screening screens out bright light. They kind of have built-in sunglasses. Their eyes get darker as the sunlight gets brighter. The octopi is so different from anything else found on our planet. It has led for some people to speculate that these beasties may have come from outer space. The question of whether the octopus is an alien from outer space captured the public imagination once the story was put out there. This eight limbed marine invertebrate possesses traits that are far different from anything else found on our planet. From its distributed nervous system to its remarkable ability to manipulate its genetic instructions, the octopus represents a highly divergent creature. Keep in mind, evolution is only a theory. Some folks pretend as if this is a fact, especially the way it's taught in school. Evolution does mean change to adapt to our environment. Kind of like how folks living up north are fine in freezing cold weather, but they melt when the temperatures get up to 100. Those of us in the south consider anything below 50 to be unmanageable, but 110 degrees, well, that's doable. I watched that show Trucking with Schmidt. And this guy's out there running around in a t-shirt talking about the nice weather. And then he says it's like 30 degrees out. I also watch Trucker Josh. He's up there in Canada. No, it's just too cold up there. The whole Scopes monkey trial thing was a big scam. It's right up there with the creature from Jekyll Island. There was no high school student uprising claiming that this guy had been teaching evolution in high school. That was all just a made up story. The white coat crowd will perform amazing feats to try to convince us that octopi are from Earth and nothing more. Even the articles that I read that were saying that octopi came from the stars eventually wound up saying that no, they're just terrestrial creatures and that the whole interspace story was just a story. They used interesting titles such as Octopi Come from Outer Space to get folks to read the article, and then they would drop back to the old, we don't believe this nonsense, and neither should you argument. The octopus has extraordinary physical and neurological architecture. Its nervous system is not centralized like vertebrates. Two-thirds of its approximately 500 million neurons are in its arms. There's a donut-shaped central brain that handles the high-level decision-making, while the ganglia, or mini-brains, in each arm allow them to taste, touch, and act with autonomy. This decentralized control means a single arm can react to stimuli even if it's been chopped off. The octopus is a master of multitasking. For us humans, it would be like reading a book while drawing a picture and driving a car at the same time. We would screw up all three. Should an octopus lose an arm, it will grow back. Kind of like Deadpool when he had his legs chopped off. Now I have to ask, did his legs grow his body back? There would be two more copies of Deadpool out there running around, or did that just not happen? Did the folks writing this story not think of that? I, of course, am referring back to the Doctor Who episode where he had a hand chopped off, and that hand, well, continued to live on as its own entity. Uh, the circulatory system of octopi is distinct as well. They have three hearts, two branchial heart that pump blood through the gills, and a single systemic heart that circulates oxygenated blood to the rest of the body. Their blood is blue. I believe they're the only creature on Earth with actual blue blood. The oxygen carrying cells are not, they're called hemocyanin, which contains more copper than iron. Hemoglobin found in human blood, that's iron based. Hemocyanin is highly efficient in cold, low oxygen environments. If there were mermaids, that's the kind of blood they would probably have. Blue blood. It would give them a kind of a weird tinge. Octopi possess the ability to instantly change their skin color and texture for camouflage as well as communication. The dynamic capability is driven by thousands of pigment sacs called chromatophores, which are controlled by muscles and nerves. They can also perceive the polarization of light, a dimension of visibility that us humans don't have. The octopi's unique biology is rooted in a molecular mechanism that allows it to rewrite its genetic instructions. Most life forms rely on DNA as a stable blueprint, with RNA serving as a transient messenger to build proteins. Soft-bodied cephalopods engage in extensive RNA editing, specifically a process called adenosine to inosine editing. This process uses enzymes to chemically modify the messenger RNA molecule after it has been transcribed for DNA. This modification changes the resulting protein without altering the underlying DNA, a mechanism called recoding. Octopi have tens of thousands of these recoding sites all over their body, a significantly higher number than the few hundred found in mammals like us. This massive editing capability provides functional plasticity, particularly in the nervous system. The ability to create multiple versions of a single protein allows the octopi to fine tune protein function in response to immediate environmental changes, such as temperature. In response to colder water, the octopus can edit RNA to produce new protein variants that optimize neurotransmitter release. Yeah, more of that scientific talk. This molecular strategy sacrifices the long-term adaptability of DNA evolution for the benefit of immediate flexible adoption at the protein level. That was a lot of scientificking. A to I editing allows the octopi to adapt quickly to any changes in their environment. They can go from super cold water to hot water in seconds without having to adjust their bodies. The question, is an octopi alien? Gained a lot of traction after a controversial 2018 paper proposed a theory of panspermia. This hypothesis suggested that octopus' unique traits such as the complex eyeballs, the advanced nervous system could be explained if cryopreserved cephalopod eggs had arrived on Earth from a comet. The authorities linked the sudden appearance of diverse life forms during the Cambrian explosion to the possibility of alien genetic seeding. This idea was rejected by scientific community, which pointed to the octopus's clear placement within the mollusk phylum. They don't believe it, so therefore it's not true. The notion that a complex organism, genetic makeup, could integrate seamlessly into the Earth's biological tree of life was implausible as far as these folks were concerned. The fossil record traces the lineage of cephalopods back through various ancestral forms over a half a billion years. They have the fossil record. They know what these things looked like thousands of years ago, but they don't know if just because there was something that looked like an octopus thousands of years ago, it is the same creature that we have today. Respiration involves drawing water into the mantle cavity through an aperture, passing it through the gills, then expelling it out through the siphon. Respiration can also play a role in locomotion, as the octopus can propel its body shooting water out through the siphon. Octopi also breathe like spiders. Their skin absorbs additional oxygen. When resting, about 41% of their oxygen is absorbed through the skin. It's reduced down to 33% when they're swimming. Uh, when they are eating, it drops down to 3%. The digestive system begins with the buccal mass, which consists of the mouth with the beak, and the pharynx, radula, and salivary glands. Make spit. The radula is serrated and made of chitin. Food is broken down and is forced into the esophagus by two lateral extensions of the esophageal sidewalls, in addition to the radula. The food is broken down and any nutrients are absorbed, and then the excrement is shot out the same part of the body used for breathing. That would be like you were going to the bathroom through your nose. Ugh. They can po- they can poop and shoot away at the same time. So any creature pursuing them is going to get a face full of poo. My dog does something like that. She will drop a deuce in the backyard and then she will run as fast as she can around the yard as if she's trying to escape something. I always know at night when she's gone to the bathroom because you'll hear her claws on the floor going clickety 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 running through the house. We always put down a little thing for her to use, an inside bathroom, if you will. During osmoregulation, the maintenance of constant osmotic pressure in the fluids of an organism by the control of water and salt concentration, fluid is added to the pericardium of the bronchial hearts. The octopus has two nephridia, equivalent to the kidneys, that are associated with the branchial hearts. These and their associated ducts connect the pericardial cavity with the mantle cavity. Each branch of the vena cava has a renal appendage that pass over the thin-walled nephrotium before reaching the bronchial heart. Bronchial heart. Urine is created in the pericardial cavity and is it's all it's and then it's excreted from the body. Uh, The sac that our heart sets in is the octopus bladder. Ooh, it sounds as if instead of yeah, that's the heart is sitting in a bag full of pee. Octopi and their relatives have a more extensive and complex nervous system than any other invertebrate, containing over 500 million neurons, about the same as a dog has. One part is localized in the brain, contained in a cartilaginous capsule. Two-thirds of the neurons are in the nerve cords of its arms. This allows their arms to perform active actions with a degree of independence. Learning manually occurs in the brain, while the arms make decisions independently. A severed arm can still move and respond to stimuli. Unlike in many other animals, including other mollusks, the movement of octopi and their relatives are not organized in their brains via internal symmetropic map of their body. Octopi have the same genes that are active in the human brain, implying an evolutionary convergence in molecular level. Like other cephalopods, octopi have a camera-like eye. Color vision appears to vary from species to species. Opsonus in the skin respond to different wavelengths of light and help the animal choose a coloration that matches the surroundings, and that's how it camouflages itself. Chromatophores in the skin can respond to light independently of the eyes. Instead of looking around to see what it needs in order to hide, the octopus simply moves to an area and the skin automatically changes to match the background. Attached to the optic capsules are two organs called statocysts, sac-like structures containing a mineralized mass and sensitive hair that allow the octopus to sense the orientation of its body relative to brain, gravity, and time. An automatic response keeps the octopus eye oriented so that the pupil is always horizontal. Even if the creature is upside down, everything is seen right side up. Octopi also use statocysts to hear. Uh, they hear through their eyeballs. They hear sounds between 400 and 1,000 hertz. Octopi have an excellent somatosensory system. Their suction cups are equipped with chemoreceptors so they can taste with their arms. Octopus arms move easily because these sensors recognize octopus skin and prevent themselves from accidentally attaching. Octopi appear to have poor proprioceptive sense and must see their arms in order to keep track of where they're at. The ink sac is located under the digestive gland. A gland attached to the sac produces the ink uh, where it's being stored. The sac is close enough to the funnel for the octopus to shoot out the ink with the water jet. As the animal begins to shoot, the ink passes through the gland, which mixes it with mucus, and it leaves the funnel as a thick, dark blob, which helps the animal escape from a predator. The main pigment of the ink is melanin, which gives it that black coloration. According to the evolution, animals with the most adaptive characteristics will likely survive and reproduce more than disadvantaged animals. Therefore, passing down these traits, which change and refine over time, create evolution as we know it. But octopus are different. The main characteristics we associate with octopi, large, non centralized brain, camouflage ability, and flexible bodies, all appeared on the evolutionary scene suddenly during the Cambrian explosion. Before then, octopus ancestors looked very different. They had shells, like the nautilus. One of the earliest fossils from the era, called the Nectocaris, shows a rather sudden divergence from the shelled creature to the non-shelled creature. While scientists have been debating for about the last 30 years uh, what the fossil really means for cephalopods, it casts doubt on the idea that they evolved like other animals. Like I said about the fossil record, creatures that look like octopi but weren't. I'm not saying that octopi came from outer space. I'm just giving you the information so that you can come up with your own decisions. The modern octopus traits set it apart from any other animals. In terms of brain to body ratio, the octopus has the largest ratio of any invertebrate. This intelligence goes far beyond simple moving through mazes or opening jars. Octopi are some of the only invertebrates that use tools. They can wield external weapons, such as the way the blanket octopus carries the tentacles from the Portuguese man of war and uses them as weapons. They hunt collaboratively with other species. They use fish to chase down their food. The octopus will get fish to go hunting for its food. Octopi may be the smartest of invertebrates, but how their intelligence is distributed is also one of the key factors that scientists use as evidence to support theories that octopi are aliens or they were influenced by aliens. Octopi have one centralized brain, but the rest is spread through each arm. In fact, the majority of the octopus's neurons do not exist in the centralized brain. Those neurons are distributed in the 8 arms and in their suckers. They can think with their teeth. Like human hands and fingers, octopus suckers can think and act on their own. Not only are octopi smart, they have personalities and they exhibit human traits. The most alien part of an octopus is their DNA. In their effort to map the genome of the entire animal kingdom, scientists have discovered some interesting fact. The octopus has 33,000 protein coding genes. Humans have 22,000 or 20,000. Despite its complexity, octopus DNA has changed very little compared to other animals. If DNA is what sets the instructions for life, RNA is what receives these messages and then makes things happen. Octopi can bypass the lead for genetic mutations and consistently give their RNA new instructions to alter their physiology pretty much on demand. In addition to their intelligence, personalities, and complex biology, some octopi seem to exhibit otherworldly powers. Between 2008 and 2010, Paul the Octopus was regularly asked to pick the winners of FIFA games. Out of 14 predictions, Paul was correct 12 times. That's an 85.7% accuracy rate. When octopi swim, their hearts stop beating. Because of this, they tend to spend more time crawling than swimming. When octopi are threatened, they release ink, which dulls the predator's sense of smell and blocks their sight. This defensive move gives the octopi a chance to escape. If an octopus is unfortunate enough to get caught by a predator, it is able to escape by losing one of its arms, which it then regrows. I believe God created everything on the earth, and I'm positive he knows what he was doing. Why did the octopi get the option of regrowing missing limbs, while us humans are reliant on prosthetics if we lose anything? Yeah, I know in the movie Deadpool he could grow things back, but that was fiction, I think. Octopi eat just about anything they can catch: fish, birds, shellfish. Once the octopus has finished eating, it discards any shells, if its prey has one, and it stacks the piles around their den. This collection of shells is known as an octopus's garden. It acts to help stabilize their home. Octopi have extremely strong beak-like jaws, and they also have venomous saliva. Octopi produce neurotoxins in their venom glands. They use it for hunting and self-defense. They rarely attack humans using their venom, and if you do see an octopus, it will usually leave you alone, but not all the time. Most species don't have strong enough poison to affect us humans, but some of it does have a bad effect on folks. It is a paralytic, unlike rattlesnakes that also have digestive fluids and other enzymes. All the octopus's venom does is paralyze you for a short period of time. Now, if you're swimming underwater holding your breath and suddenly you become paralyzed, you can't make it back to the surface. A female octopi can lay up to 100,000 eggs. They'll sit there and guard these eggs until they hatch, but they don't eat while they're guarding their eggs. 33 researchers published a scientific paper saying that octopi are aliens. They are not referring to aliens in metaphorical sense, literal aliens from another planet. Since the paper was released, a lot of boys in white lab coats have rushed out to say they don't believe it. They then head over to their local sports lab and hang out with like minded scientists, bragging about not believing in anything. I get a kick out of anything Gary Larson does. He picks on scientists a lot more than I do. It's funny how life sometimes goes. Larson did a cartoon back in 1987 about cavemen learning the different parts of a dinosaur. That spiky tail thing was called the thagomizer. The boys in the white lab coats have now begun calling that spiky tail thing the thagomizer. The white coat crowd did not embrace the theory of octopi coming from some other planet. As always, they tried to ridicule the researchers while sitting in their offices surrounded by books written by people with lots of letters behind their names, and therefore they know everything. The folks who actually did the work suggest the Cambrian explosion, a sudden burst of life that occurred around 540 million years ago, was the result of extraterrestrial intervention. The paper asks whether this event, which saw the rapid emergence of most of the animal groups that still exist on Earth today, was terrestrial or cosmic. They say it was cosmic. Scientifically, the researchers' purpose proposed the idea that alien viruses crashed to Earth in the meteorite, infected a population of primitive squid, and caused them to evolve into octopi. Another theory they suggest is that fertilized squid or octopus eggs were delivered to Earth on a meteorite. The idea is essentially a reimagining of the panspermia hypothesis, which suggests that life on Earth was seeded by space dust or asteroids crashing into the Earth. One of the proponents of this idea was Chandra Wickramansinghji. Uh, you see him on Ancient Aliens once in a while. Octopi are just plain weird. They're mollusks, meaning they're closely related to snails, and yet they're intelligent. On top of their large brains and sophisticated nervous system, the authors of the paper list the camera like eyes, the flexible bodies, and their ability to camouflage themselves by changing color and shape as evidence of extraterrestrial origins. These features appear so suddenly in the octopus family tree that it is plausible to suggest they seem to be borrowed from a far distant future in terms of terrestrial evolution or from some cosmos other than our own. Philosopher Peter Godfrey Smith, who wrote a book about octopus intelligence titled Other Minds, described them as the closest we will ever come to meeting an intelligent alien. In 2015, a new article told about researchers who found alien DNA in these creatures. Octopi are much smarter creatures than we could have ever imagined. Many in captivity have managed to escape from their enclosures over the years, making for some interesting and hilarious videos. In 2008, at the Sea Star Aquarium in Coburg, Germany, the power kept going out across part of the building. Lights would flicker and then they would fail, and the equipment that controlled the aquarium tanks would shut down in the middle of the night. Staff could not figure out what was going on. They checked the wiring, they brought in electricians, they ran tests on all of their equipment. Nothing seemed to be wrong with anything as far as the wiring would go, and then the power would keep going on the fritz. Someone suggested that maybe somebody was sneaking in at night and messing with the equipment. The supervisor had the staff set up a camera that would catch anybody that was in there in flagrante delicto, which is Latin for in blazing offense. Instead of catching someone, they caught something. Otto was a 6-month-old common octopus, about the size of a basketball. He was clever, curious, and a troublemaker. Otto had figured out how to shoot jets of water at the overhead lamp above his tank. It might have been because the bright light was annoying him, or maybe he was bored, or maybe he was trying to shut down the system so he could escape. Otto would hit the lamp with water, short circuit it, cause a power to go out in that section of the building. This was not the first or only time Otto had shown signs of being unusually smart and curious. According to the staff, he'd been known to juggle hermit crabs. He rearranged all the decorations in his tank, and he would begin throwing rocks at the glass wall, as if trying to break it. Once he had managed to completely dismantle the water filter inside his tank. For aquarium employees, it became clear that Otto wasn't just being playful, he was exploring and experimenting with everything around him. Octopi are known for being among the most intelligent invertebrates on the planet. They have the largest brain for their body size, and they're capable of learning, problem solving, and even remembering solutions to puzzles. Otto's behavior was a strong example of this. Experts believed that Otto's actions were just above mischief, weren't just about mischief. They were also a result of being in an environment that wasn't challenging his brain. It seems as if Otto had ADHD. Otto's repeated targeting of the lamp became such a problem that the staff had to move the lamp to a different location, and then, as if Otto wasn't done, they had to keep doing other things in order to keep him from messing with the electronics and dismantling the filter. Also in 2008, the Heal the Bay Santa Monica Pier Aquarium was facing up to $20,000 in damage as a result of the octopus that had flooded the building with 200 gallons of seawater. The water the octopus had released through a circulation pipe in her tank, which cascaded out into the offices and the experimental section. Most of the displays were spared. The full grown female California two spotted octopus was only about a foot long. The damage to the aquarium was severe. Seawater saturated flooring, installed in September 2008, seeped under the front entryway and destroyed the front facade of the display. The drywall on the western side of the building was soaked to a foot and a half from the base, and one of the public bathrooms had to be put out of commission until it could be repaired. The octopus had dismantled a circulation pump valve which caused the flooding. The aquarium had to make some improvements to the tank so the octopus wouldn't cause any more damage. July 25th, 2012, a security guard was making her rounds at an aquarium's ground floor exhibit. She spotted what looked like a banana peel laying on the floor in front of the Shale Reef look down exhibit. The guard thought it was odd that the cleaning staff hadn't seen this item, so she bent down to pick it up. Instead of a peel, she found a small red octopus about the size of her hand. There was a wet trail leading from the tank, so the guard picked up the octopus and simply put it back in the tank. As it turns out, the red octopus was not part of that display. Uh, it had shown up there by accident. The staff believes that the octopus had hitchhiked into the aquarium as a tiny fingernail sized juvenile, either attached to a rock or a sponge. Once inside the exhibit, the reclusive nocturnal octopus had hidden among the rocks, growing to its current size undetected. Once the staff were aware of the creature, they did some investigating and they found its lair, which was surrounded by the remains of its past meals. The staff had been wondering what was happening to the crabs in the tank. Now they knew. The octopus was relocated to its own enclosure with a locking lid in place. In 2015, Seattle Aquarium's giant octopus named Ink was caught on video using his arms to pull himself up to the top of his aquarium and then lift the lid so that Ink could slip out and scurry across the floor. One of the staff spotted the escapee and began to pursue. It took some time and a lot of effort to get Ink back into his enclosure. The staff had to find a way of keeping the lid in place to prevent further escapes. In 2016, Inky, the giant octopus, managed to break out from his enclosure in New Zealand. Now, Ink and Inky, those are two different octopus. Once at the floor drain, Inky began to unscrew the cover. Then he slipped into a pipe that led out to the ocean. The video shows what looks like a calculated plan, not just random wandering about. They have a complex brain, and this octopus was able to figure out that that drain would lead to the ocean. Perhaps he could smell it or hear it. I remember seeing a video about an octopus that was causing all kinds of havoc in an aquarium. The staff had begun to notice fish in other tanks would go missing. They had no idea what was going on, so they put a camera in the room and then waited. What makes this story so weird is I know I saw it. I searched all over the internet looking for that story. I found dozens of others who had also seen this video, and they were wondering what had become of it. Of course, those people, the fact checkers, all came rushing out proclaiming that that video was nothing but a hoax. I did find a link saying that it would take me to the video, but that link wasn't working. The way I remember it was the octopus would lift the lid from its tank, exit to one of the other tanks, have a meal or two, and then sneak back home, closing the lid on the way back in. Was this simply one of those Mandela effect things like the fruit of the loom or the millionaire's monocle? At least a dozen other people remembered seeing this video, and many are asking the same questions. Why do things like this happen? I can't be just another conspiracy, can it? What possible benefit could messing with our minds? Oh, never mind. I see. Shortly began, shortly before My Octopus Teacher was released in 2020, the National Geographic published a 2019 article titled, "Is It Wrong to Keep Octopus in Captivity?" Octopi are very intelligent and they cause a lot of mischief. They can do downright damage if the conditions are right. There are those who say it's not right to keep intelligent creatures in a tank. There are also those who look at the octopi as just another meal. Food can be a complicated subject. I would never knowingly eat one of my dogs. I do know of a restaurant here in town where the menu contained meat that had once wagged its tail. A truck coming out of Mexico was taken into the customs lot for inspection, and during the search, they discovered meat in the back that was not cow or pig or chicken. It was dog. I don't know where these animals originated, but the owner of the restaurant swore that this meat was only for him and his family. They must have eaten like lions. A truck full of dead dogs. They had to pay a fine, and once word got out, the people looking for a place to go for dinner decided to try other establishments. Oddly, that restaurant is still in town today, still serving food of questionable origin. How intelligent does an animal need to be taken off of the menu? I know pigs are very smart, but they're also very tasty. Bacon is a major food group all by itself. Bacon makes bacon taste better. Here in the US, if you were starving and you said that you ate a wolf, nobody would say anything bad about you. If, on the other hand, you said you ate your dog, folks would look at you like you're weird. If you come riding into town on a steer, well, you must be Mongo. If you ate a horse, you're a bad man. a very bad man, and you wind up in the cornfield. That's a good life. If you don't get that, you need to watch more Twilight Zone. I do not eat seafood. I don't eat squid or octopi. I have a seafood intolerance. If I eat seafood, I get sick. At least I don't die. I eat chicken all the time, even though I know somebody that has a pet chicken. As for octopi coming from some other planet, don't wait for those people to come out and tell us. They can't even say for sure what all these comets passing through our solar system are, or where they're coming from, or where they're going. They take photographs of these things that look like something you would take with an old digital camera from back in the 80s. Invaders from some other star system? Intelligent, intergalactic tourists? Chunks of frozen ice just passing through our solar system. Someday, perhaps a flying saucer will land on the front lawn of the White House and some creatures come out the door that look like octopi. Somebody's going to be in a lot of trouble for their diet. If you enjoyed tonight's show, if you did, spread it around a bit. Tell other people they should be listening to the show as well. If you didn't like the show, why the heck are you listening? Until next time, this is Chris James for Strange Things.
Are you coming to the tree where there's strung up a man who they say he murdered 3? Strange things have happened there. No stranger would it be if we met at midnight in the hanging tree.